I'm Tracy Schroyer of LaunchTechMadeEasy.com, and I enable business owners to just breeze through the process of setting up their sales funnel so that they can start selling products quickly and easily. So if that's you, if you are so frustrated by all of the steps that you have to go through to just go ahead and sell what you want to sell, then you're in the right space, because I teach really, really basic tech, like landing pages, opt-in forms, all the stuff you need just to get set up online. So today, like I said, we're talking about email service providers, specifically what to consider when you're choosing an email service provider. Maybe you don't even know what an email service provider is. So let's start there. Now, an email service provider is the way you're going to send your emails out to your subscribers or your list online. You may not realize this, but you should never, ever send emails to people on your personal list using Gmail or Hotmail or AOL or whatever it is you use for your personal email. Now, there's a bunch of reasons that you shouldn't do that, but the biggest is that it's illegal. So you really don't want to be doing something that's illegal with your business, particularly if it's a brand new business. There was a law passed, I don't even remember, it was not too many years ago, called the Spam Act. And basically what it does is protect us from getting all kinds of spam in our email inboxes. One of the things that it requires is that people who subscribe to your email list are unable to subscribe with just a single click. Now, if you've noticed, when you get email in your inbox, at the very, very bottom, if it's from a business, there should be a button to unsubscribe. That is because of the Spam Act. And telling people to, if you don't want to receive this email, if you no longer want to be on my list, just reply to this email with the word unsubscribe. That doesn't count. You need to have a link that they can click and immediately unsubscribe. So that's one of the reasons you want to use a business email service provider, because it allows you to do that. There are a lot of other reasons to use an email service provider as well, and I'll be talking about those today, but that's a good enough reason right there. If you do try to send bulk email through Gmail or AOL or whatever you use for your personal email and you get caught, you are going to have a huge problem, because you're going to be blacklisted, and that's every bit as bad as it sounds. They may blacklist your email address. They can even blacklist your ISP, which is the way that you actually connect to the internet. So just don't do it. Use an email service provider. It's not very expensive, and it's basically the cost of doing business online. So you're going to set up a business email account if you don't already have one. So you need your email service provider, and we're just going to call that an ESP for short, because email service provider gets to be really, really long. Now, you might recognize names like MailChimp, Constant Contact, Aweber, ActiveCampaign. There's a ton of them out there. And these are all services that specialize in helping you market your business using email. So they have all the features that you need, not only to be legally compliant, but also to do the really cool marketing things that you probably want to do in your business. Things like send out newsletters, and in some cases, even landing pages. So, that's what an email service provider is. I'm being chased by a cricket or something here. Now, there are a few that I don't recommend if you're just starting out with a new business. A lot of people tend to use something like MailChimp or even Constant Contact. And I'll say that MailChimp does have a time and a place, but if you're building an online business where you're going to need to be doing things like sending different emails out to different lists, or to track where people are coming from, which opt-in forms they're using, and which ones are really popular, you're going to want to use something that's a little bit more robust than MailChimp. There's not a lot of reporting features in MailChimp, and the same goes for Constant Contact. They do, like I said, have their time and place. They're very, very easy to use, and they have really great templates that you can use. But in terms of list building and being able to separate your list based on where subscribers come from and those kinds of things, that's not what MailChimp and Constant Contact are designed for. They're designed to be a really, really easy way to get newsletters out to clients and have them look super pretty, and they're great for that, but they're not for growing a professional online business. Now, after the live today, I'm going to put a link underneath the video with a freebie that I have that compares all of the various email service providers so that you can compare them. I filled in the different criteria of things to consider so that it makes it easier for you to choose the one that's going to be best for you. And I'll put a link to that right below this video so that you have access to that. Now, one of the things I recommend when trying to choose your email service provider is that you start with a free trial. Most of the email service providers have some type of free trial. Maybe it's a 30-day money-back guarantee or something along those lines. But even if you're not really ready to start sending emails now, pretend like you are. Go in there and create an email and put a few email addresses in there. Maybe it's you and your sister or your mother or something like that, and put in some dummy copy and some photos and play around with it. Try the newsletter features. See if it really feels good to you. You can put up some dummy photos. A lot of times they'll have photos right in there that you can use. Now, you're going to be spending a lot of time in your email service provider, whether it's Aweber or ActiveCampaign or whatever. So you're going to want to know that the platform really feels comfortable to you. Now, there are a few ESPs that I recommend for building businesses online. Probably the most basic is Aweber. Very popular. It does everything that you're going to need it to do when you're first getting started online. And it's very easy to move things from any of these email service providers into a bigger program down the line if that's what you decide to do. So Aweber is one. I also really like GetResponse, and I like ActiveCampaign. Now, I've used all three of these. I wasn't with Aweber for a while. Aweber has changed a lot since I used it. I actually used it when I first started my business, and I needed to move off of it because it didn't do some of the things that I needed it to do. However, now it does. So Aweber might be a good choice for you. There's also GetResponse. I've used GetResponse as well. Right now I'm using ActiveCampaign, and that's because the way that ActiveCampaign works speaks to my brain. So if you are very visual, then one of these might speak to you more than another. So that's why I suggest you really get in there and play around with them and figure out which program it is that is closest to the perfect solution for your situation. One of the things I really like about ActiveCampaign is the automations that it does, and it is really close to like an Infusionsoft, kind of an Infusionsoft Lite. Doesn't do nearly everything Infusionsoft does, but I've used Infusionsoft enough to know that they're sort of compatible in terms of the way that they operate. And so if I ever did need to go to Infusionsoft, I already have ActiveCampaign, and that makes it kind of an easier transition. So for ease of use, I'm probably going to talk about ActiveCampaign most of today just because it's easier to just use one program to talk about. Okay, let's say you're doing some free trials. You're going to get in there, and not only are you going to create emails, but you're probably going to set up some newsletters and play around with the autoresponder sequences. Now, for those of you who don't know what an autoresponder sequence is, there are a couple of different ways that you can do emails in your email service provider. The most common way that a lot of people think of using an email service provider is to send out a newsletter. And by sending out a newsletter, you send it out to your entire list all at one time. That's called a broadcast email. You're broadcasting to your entire list all at once. There are other ways that you can also send out emails. You can send out autoresponders. Now, an autoresponder is something that is triggered by an action of someone on your list. Most of the time, it's if someone joins your list. So let's say you go onto my Facebook page and you see an opt-in box, and I have a couple on my page, but so you opt in for my technology roadmap. When you opt in for that, you will be added to the list that I have set up that is associated with that opt-in in ActiveCampaign. Now, you will automatically, after you've confirmed your email, you will automatically get the PDF with the technology roadmap on it. But you will also get, an hour later, an autoresponder that says, hey, welcome to Launch Tech Made Easy. You're really awesome, and here's why. Now, as much as I don't want to burst your bubble, I have to tell you that I am not sitting at my computer waiting for people to opt in and then typing out that email and sending it to the people who subscribe an hour later. That is set up via autoresponder. So that is what an autoresponder is. Now, you've probably had an experience with an autoresponder before if you've ever ordered a product online. If you haven't really paid attention, go surf the net for a few minutes and find some, sign up for them, and see what the different autoresponder sequences are that people have set up to send out to you as a subscriber. And you can start to get some ideas and start thinking about what you like, what you don't like, and how you want to run your own autoresponder sequence. Now, one of the really, really cool things about autoresponders is that depending on the service you choose, you're even going to be able to choose the time of day or the day of the week that you want your autoresponders to go out. So for example, when someone joins my list, let's say they join my list at 1 p.m. on a Tuesday, I can set it up so that they get all future autoresponders at 1 p.m. on Tuesdays. Excuse me, I've got something bothering me there. Or I can have it set up so that they get an autoresponder in 2 days. Or I can have it set up so they get an autoresponder 7 days from the day that they opted in. Any one of those will work. So if that's something that's important to you, if you know that your list and the people on your list are online at a specific time each day, then you may want your emails to only go out at that time. So make sure that the email service provider that you're looking at provides that feature. Some do, some don't. And sometimes it isn't important, but you want to make sure that if it's something that is important to you, that that option is available to you. So you have a few things to explore in these free trials that you're doing. You're going to want to try setting up a sample newsletter, like I said. Now, maybe the way you send out a newsletter is to do a super fancy newsletter, all the bells and whistles, like you like graphics and photos and colors and columns. Make sure that you can do that easily on the ESP that you've chosen. ActiveCampaign, GetResponse, Aweber, you can do all of that with any of those. Maybe you like just sending out a basic text email with a link to your blog. That's what I do every week. Make sure that that works the way that you want it to do. Test it out on mobile. Send yourself an email and then look at it on your phone or your iPad or however you think your subscribers are going to be consuming your content, and make sure that it looks the way you want it to look. Make sure that it goes out the way and how you want it, not only the way you want it to look, but in the time frame that you want it to. I remember that when I first started my online business, I was playing around with all of the different features that were part of the email service provider. I think at the time it was Aweber, and I had typed up a dummy email, and without thinking about it, I had already imported all of my email contacts. And I accidentally sent the dummy email out to my whole list because there was no warning that that's what I was doing. It said, you know, something like, it was probably something really obvious like send email, but I thought it was when I hit the send email button, it was going to give me a time to schedule it. And I missed that there were 2 different buttons. And so I sent out this dummy email to my whole list. So just be careful when you're playing around. Don't put people's email addresses in there that you want to send to until you're really sure that that's the service you're going to go with and that you want to send to them. And you know, that's something to pay attention to. Like, can you accidentally send out an email without intending to? Some of them make it really, really clear. Like some of them will say, are you sure you want to send this email on Tuesday at 2 p.m. Central Time? And you have to click yes. And some of them, it's a little bit less obvious. So you're just going to want to check that out and make sure that like I said, it speaks to the way you think. You're also going to want to look at your autoresponders and things like, is there a limit on how many you can link together? At one point with a different business that I had autoresponders set up to go to my list once a week, and I had them set up for 9 months. I had that many emails in my autoresponder sequence. Now, that was years ago, and I don't think that that's probably a best practices for marketing anymore, but I was educating them, and I needed to hit on certain points at certain certain points that they were at in the process, and that was a really great way to do it. Now, not every email service provider will allow you to do that. Some of them only allow one autoresponder, and that's for the day that somebody joins your list. You get an autoresponder. You can send out an autoresponder that says, hey, thanks for joining me, and here's how you can get more information about my company. So if you plan to use autoresponders, that's something you're going to want to look at. You want to really write down on a piece of paper what your goals are for your email service provider before you just go ahead and grab the one that everybody else is using. Because even though it isn't hard to switch companies midway through, to switch from Aweber to ActiveCampaign or ActiveCampaign to Infusionsoft, it isn't something that you want to be doing often because it takes time. Nothing is seamless, and as easy as they always make it sound like it's going to be, there's always a problem here and there. There's a little snag. So make sure that you are pretty comfy with the one that you want when you sign up for it. Now, if you want something like landing pages, some of the ESPs also have features like landing pages. Do you like the landing pages that they offer, or are you going to want to use a separate landing page platform like Lead Pages? Now, something to pay attention to there is, I know GetResponse, they offer landing pages, but it may cost you a little more to use that feature. So does that make sense? Or are you better off going with something like Aweber and then using Lead Pages to go with Aweber? So look through the landing pages. Are they landing pages you like? Are they really basic, or can you change things about them? Can you change the fonts? Can you change the colors? Can you move things around? How easy is it to set up a list on the platforms that you're considering? If you're like me, I use a lot of lists in my business. For every opt-in form that I have on my website, I have a different list. And the reason that I do that is because I want to know where people are opting in, and I want to be able to specifically email to them based on those interests if I want to. I don't always do that. So if I have 3 opt-ins on my website and they all are related to technology and business, beginning technology and business, and my email that I'm sending out that week is specific to starting technology and business, then I may very well just send to my entire list. But if I have an opt-in on my website that is for virtual assistants, which I have had at times, then I wouldn't send my weekly email on building up your tech from the ground up necessarily to those virtual assistants. That isn't an email that they'd be interested in. So I might exclude them from the list of emails that I'm the different email lists that I'm sending to. So you want to be able to see how easy it is to set up a list. In some cases, you have to have a separate form tied to every list. Does that bug you? Is that okay? Really, really dig in there. You are going to spend more time in this part of your business than probably anything else. Maybe your website, but websites are actually a lot less complicated than email service providers, because the email service providers do so many things. Now, if you are going to be segmenting your lists, you're also going to want to see if that's an easy thing to do. In some email service providers, you can segment by people who subscribed in the last 7 days, people who subscribed 2 months ago, people who clicked on this link, people who didn't click on a link. Look at that. If that is probably something as your business grows that you're going to want to be able to do. So you want to make sure that if that's the case, that you can do that. You don't want to have to move when you get to that point in your business. Now, sometimes you're going to also want to be able to move people from one list to another. So like I said, I have 3 opt-ins on my email, on my website, that all talk about beginning launch tech. So at some point, I could move all of the people from those 3 lists onto one big list because it all covers the same information. Can you do that? Some ESPs, you can't do that. Once they're on a list, they have to stay on a list. Now, particularly if you're launching, it's good to be able to move people to and from lists, because they may subscribe to a list and then decide that they want to buy from you. So you want to move them off of your prospect list and into your buyers list. So you will want to be able to move people back and forth from your lists. You want to look at the reporting. I'm not a huge reporting person. I don't like spreadsheets. I like visual reporting. I like pie charts and graphs. And so that's another reason that I really like ActiveCampaign, because they give me pie charts and graphs. My husband, on the other hand, is a total Excel spreadsheet guy. So that's the type of reporting he likes. So we go back and forth with which types of email service providers we like. So look at the reporting features. Do they go in depth the way that you want them to? Look at the way that not only the way that your emails look when they go out online on a mobile device, but also look at the way that you will be using it. Do you usually post from your computer, or do you usually post from a mobile device? And if that program has an app, is the app easy to use, or is it really clunky and hard to use? Consider the way you're going to be using it. Like, I almost always post from my computer, so the mobile app doesn't really matter all that much to me. But it was really interesting when I used to use GetResponse. I was on the road one time and I didn't have my laptop with me, and I wanted to check on something on my email list. So I downloaded the app and I was using the app. And the app on my phone was completely different than the platform on my desktop. And the reality was, I actually liked the way my phone app worked better than the way the desktop worked. So make sure that you check that out. There's so many things to consider when you're choosing your email service provider. And I found it's sad to me that so many people just go with what everybody else is using, and they don't really consider what's going to be best for their business. Now, you're also going to want to make sure that you can split test in your ESP. Split testing means that you may be able, let's say you have a list of 100 people, and you really can't decide on what the best subject line is going to be. And so you have two, and you want to try them both. What split testing does is it allows you to put in both email subject lines, and it does a little test. So if let's say you had 100 people on your list, it would send out subject line A to 25 people and subject line B to 25 people. And then it would wait and see who opened more often, the people who got subject line A or the people who got subject line B. And then it would send the rest of the emails out to the subject line that won. Now, it's not always subject line. Sometimes you can do it by people who clicked on an email. You can A/B split test by colors, or by the photos that you use in an email, or using a photo and not using a photo. So A/B split testing is also something that you really, really want in an email service provider, because as your business grows, you're going to be doing that more and more often. Now, like I said, you're going to really want to dig into these services during the free trial. And because while it is true, you can switch services, you're going to want to find one now that you can really stick with, so you can move on to the next part of your sales funnel, which is what we're going to talk about next week. Now, that being said, when you're choosing your email service provider, you don't want to buy a lot bigger system than what you need right now. You want exactly what you need, plus the things like split testing and list segmentation, not a whole lot more than that. That's why I really, really, really do not recommend Infusionsoft or Ontraport when you're first starting out. I'm going to be honest. I've been doing this kind of work for a very long time, and well, I won't say not one time. It's very seldom that I've come across someone who actually needs a service that big. And usually they're doing six-figure launches before they need them. These Ontraport and Infusionsoft are really expensive. They're very, very confusing. They're super powerful, but they often require you to hire someone just to manage your email service provider. Now, that puts you in a really bad spot, because already you're coming in behind the 8 ball and needing to be able to pay someone to run your most basic system, when you probably are going to need to pay people down the road for doing things that are a little more difficult, like editing your videos, or a graphic designer to set up some of your opt-ins and your website and your landing pages and things like that. So you don't want to have to start paying somebody a lot of money to set up a system that already is costing you a lot of money when it's really not what you need. Switching from something like Aweber or ActiveCampaign to something bigger like Infusionsoft is not a big enough deal for you to incur the huge expense before you need to. You don't want to be switching every day or every week, but if you choose the right email service provider when you're first starting out, 2 or 3 years down the line when you're ready, Infusionsoft is going to help you get your list over to them and on board, and it's not going to be a big deal. I feel so strongly about this, in fact, that I do not work with anybody who uses Infusionsoft or Ontraport. It's too much when you're first starting out to take in and to learn. Okay, off my soapbox. I mean, I want to be clear. Infusionsoft and Ontraport are really, really great services. They're definitely powerful and they're amazing and they do super, super cool things, and I've used both of them. But if you're just starting out in your business, this is not where you need to spend all of your time. It's like teaching a 15-year-old to drive by putting her in a Formula One race car. It's just not a good idea for a lot of different reasons. So those are some of my tips about email service providers. I hope it answered some of the questions that I've been getting. And like I said, I have a really great email comparison chart that I'll link to below this video that's going to help you kind of pick through some of the choices and start to decide which, 2 or 3 that you want to do trials on. You probably don't want to choose more than that to do trial memberships on, because you won't be able to dig in as deeply as you need to before the membership is over. And these range in price from, most of them have free options, and that might be a good way to use to start trying to figure out what the program does. But in reality, you shouldn't plan to be on a free option for very long, because usually the features are so limited that you won't get what you need. So they can range in price from $15 a month up to hundreds of dollars a month if you use something like Infusionsoft. So I hope that helps today. If you have any questions about your email service providers, you can go ahead and put them in the comments below. And I will be continuing along this series next week on the 7 tools that you really, really need to get your business started online. So I'll see you back here again next week, same time, maybe a little bit different location. But it'll be good. We'll talk, and I hope that I will be able to help you get that sales funnel set up online. Thanks so much. Bye-bye. Don't forget, you can always email me too at Tracy@LaunchTechMadeEasy.com.